Good afternoon and welcome to PLC II for April 9th, 2020. I will share my screen with you here quickly and we will get the agenda for the day. We're online, actually we're online week 3, although we'll be referring back to online week 2 stuff. But in the online portion 3, there's an agenda. And here we go. We've already, oops, somebody's not muted. If you want to be sure and mute yourselves here. There we go. So we've already done the welcome and the TikTok update. I do hope that you're managing to stay sane in all of the stuff that's going on. On my Facebook, and I promise not to talk social media, but on Facebook, we do guitar for social distancing every night. I play guitar for my family and friends, and we're on like day 23 of that. When I started that, I thought it would only be like a couple weeks, but now here we are, like almost a month in. So definitely is something you gotta, yeah, it's tough to find stuff to do. So I hope that you're all staying sane as much as possible. So today, we'll do some small group discussions really around what you noticed on the videos that I showed you last week, or showed you where to find them last week. In particular, the personal response and the clear model expectations angle. And then we'll also kind of get into the hot topic discussion on standardized assessment. And I'll let you do that in your small groups too. We'll probably take about between 10 and 15 minutes in our small groups. My goal in that is that you guys kind of show each other what you've done in terms of, especially in terms of the Antonetti's cube and Schlechty's levels of engagement stuff. And then if you've got the time, you can speak to what you saw on the hot topic video as well. Then we'll come back after that 10 or 15 minutes in your small groups, and we'll look at, you know, if you have questions or comments in the framework of the whole group, we'll do that. I'll introduce you guys to next week's hot topic stuff and next week's look forwards in the cube, and then that's it. That's the general plan for the day. I know that in one of the principles of assessment classes that I teach, we had some spillover questions about PLC II, so I wanted to bring up the same question here and make sure that we're all on kind of the same page when it comes to Antonetti's cube. Is anybody, or just like a fist of 5 kind of thing, 5 being that you're John Antonetti himself, and 1 being that you're like me last year at this time with Antonetti's cube? Give me a fist of 5 on how well you think you kind of understand Antonetti's cube and what we're going for with that. Got some 3s, got a 2 and a 3, 3. Okay, so we're about mid-level. Would it help if I were to show you the cube again and kind of tell you what it was about? Yes, getting a lot of, okay. So let me do that. How do I do that? Where did I find that? I think that's just in our modules. I think it's in the week 1 module for this class. Yes, oh look, it says cube. All right, so let me pull up the cube here. And if I make it bigger on my screen, does it get bigger on your screen too? Sweet, the miracles of modern technology. Okay, so essentially all we're going for with the cube is, if you look at it's not really a cube because it's only got 3 sides, so it's a half cube or whatever, but we call it Antonetti's cube. John Antonetti is the man that designed the cube, but it's important to know that he did not come up with any of the stuff that's actually on the cube, okay? If you look at it, high yield instructional strategies, big idea thinking, and 8 engaging qualities of work, none of that is his stuff. His thing was, he was pretty smart to combine it all together. Because if you as a teacher are looking at how to design a lesson plan, and remember that in the framework of the curriculum and instruction class, the cumulative assignment, the end assignment, assessment at the end is the lesson plan. So if you as a teacher are looking at putting together a lesson plan, our contention is, if you look at this cube and pick one thing from each side of the cube that you can see and incorporate that in your lesson, you're going to have a really good and effective lesson. Okay, so that's the reason we throw the cube out at you. But if you notice the top part of the cube, that's the high yield instructional strategies. That's Marzano stuff. The Marzano guy that you're learning about in the curriculum and instruction class, that's his stuff. Identifying similarities and differences, summarizing and note-taking, non-linguistic representation, all that's his stuff. If you look at the big idea thinking on the right side of the cube, synthesis, evaluation, analysis, application, that's Bloom's taxonomy. And you learned about that Where did you learn about that? Either in the developmental foundations class or the ecology class. You've seen that before too. The only thing that you haven't seen are these 8 engaging qualities of work. And that's not Antonetti stuff either. That's Philip Schlechte. And so that's the reason that in this class, in the PLC II class, that's the reason we're kind of focusing on the front of the cube, the 8 engaging qualities of work, so you can see those things in action as well. Okay, so that's the cube. We call it Antonetti's cube because he's the one that came up with the cube idea, but the stuff that's on the cube isn't really his stuff. It's other researchers that he's borrowed from. Okay, does that make more sense? Does that help frame it a little bit more? Okay, and so the other contention then is, if you as a lesson planner, as a teacher, when you're designing your lesson plans, if you have the cube in front of you and you think, shoot, I should not have stopped sharing the screen. Hang on, let me go back there again. And you think, okay, I really want my kids to do some analysis. So I want them to think critically. I want them to analyze things. How do I want them to do that? I'm going to have them do identifying similarities and differences. Okay, so I'm going to have them do analysis by identifying similarities and differences. But I want them to learn with others, because I know that's an engaging quality of work. So if you start with that premise, I want them to analyze by using similarities and differences and learning with others. You can come up with activities in the framework of your lesson plan that engage your students in that way. So they work in groups of 2 or 3 to identify the similarities and differences in, I don't know, between 2 different lesson plans, say. So later, if we were still meeting face-to-face, what I would do is throw different lesson plans out at you, have you work in partners, and then try to identify similarities and differences there. And I would have used a cube to design that activity, and it would have been an activity that got you thinking in a higher order manner by working together and finding those similarities and differences. So that's what we're asking you to do when we ask you to look at the cube. Does that kind of give you a better footing for what we actually want you to do with that? Okay, sorry that I did not come around to that earlier. Sometimes I just need to get slapped around a little bit to jog my brain about what I should actually be telling you guys versus what we actually do. Okay, so one more time, I'm going to share the screen. We're going to get out of this and go back to our week 3 stuff, the agenda. Okay, so I'm going to send you into small groups now. We're going to do that for probably about 12-ish minutes or so. And what I want you to really focus on in particular are what you saw in the videos that we watched last week is in terms of personal response and clear modeled expectations. I want you to all see if you're on the same page with that, so that when we come back to our whole group, if there are questions that you had in your group, if you were just radically different in what you thought about stuff or what you noticed, we should probably talk to that. The other thing, if you got time to talk about, I want you to talk about the hot topic video that you watched, about a 15-minute video on standardized assessment, and those questions as well. So if you're wondering where to find that video, that's in our last week's stuff. The hot topic materials for discussion today. There's some questions that you can speak to if you've got the time. But again, the thing I really want you to focus on is the Schlechte stuff from the videos you watched for this week. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. Again, those breakout rooms are going to be about 12 minutes-ish or so. Focus on the Schlechte stuff first, then move to the hot topics if you've got time. When we come back, we'll do some whole group processing of that. I am aware that some of you have been in contact with me and you're just having internet issues and all sorts of stuff going on. If you didn't get to the Schlechte stuff this week, that's okay. Just do the best you can in the group and kind of either have them explain it to you or kind of give your own thoughts about as much as you've seen so far, with the understanding that you'll get that done and turn that in before too much longer. And just stay in contact with me if that's you. That's all I ask is if you're not quite on the same page with it, just keep working. If you have questions, I'll always try to answer them for you. Okay, breakout rooms are coming up. We got 20 people here today. That's pretty good. I'm going to try to do 4 people per room. So that's 5 different breakout rooms. And again, have those conversations first around the Schlechte stuff for this week and second around the hot topic stuff. And I will see you here in about 12 to 14 minutes. And creating the rooms now. I'm going to pause the recording Okay, so the biggest thing coming out of the small groups there, were you as groups basically on the same page with the Schlechte stuff as far as what you saw? Even if you looked at different videos, were you basically on the same page with the stuff? That's the biggest deal. Okay, okay. Um, I don't know if you had time to get to the hot topic stuff or not. We may just kind of call that good for this week because I do want to make sure that we that I have time to introduce you to the other stuff for this week too. So how are we going to do that? Let me share my screen with you again, could kind of show you where to find stuff. So we got the online stuff from week 1, and that's where all the cube stuff, if you want to break down a Marzano strategies, a visual for Schlechte stuff, the Bloom's taxonomy stuff, that's all in the online week 1 module, okay? Online week 2, there's a pretty quality document about Schlechte's 8 qualities of engagement. And so I'm going to reference that right now as we look for this week. We're looking for, let me think here, analyzing instruction for learning with others and sense of audience. Learning with others and sense of audience. So let me share a document with you, another document. So that when you call up the Schlechte document, learning with others is one of the things that we're looking for this week. And shoot, I just forgot, sense of audience is the other one. That's kind of a weird deal because we're going to save emotional and intellectual safety until next week. So what you'll look for in the videos this week, and videos are the same. So you go back to those same videos, you watch them, or if you want to pick a different one of the 3, that's fine. But those are the videos that we're going to use for this class this semester. Does that make sense? So go back to the videos, watch them again, or watch the other ones, and look for learning with others. That's the first thing. Learning has a social component. And I know you can read this, but I'll read it through it a little quickly so we can frame what's happening. Students are more likely to be engaged by work that permits, encourages, and supports opportunities for them to work interdependently with others, okay? And so if you watch those videos and you find any teachers that engage their kids in think, pair, share, or literature circles, or small group discussions, something called reciprocal teaching, which is basically I as a teacher speak for a few moments, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, maybe not even that long, and then I say to my students, okay, we're going to take a pause here, turn to your partner, and tell your partner what I just told you. So you're essentially asking them to explain or synthesize what they heard to another individual in their own words. That's called reciprocal teaching. Peer revision or review. Student A reports or paraphrases student B's thoughts. So that would be, if we go back to reciprocal teaching, student A turn to student B and tell him what I just said, and then I'm going to ask student B to summarize what student A told him, okay? So things like that. That's learning with others. And then the other thing we're going to have you look for this week is sense of audience. What to say about sense of audience? Well, I'll kind of read this thing. Students are more highly motivated when their parents, teachers, fellow students, and significant others make it known that they think the student's work is important. And so if you watch and if there's a portfolio assignment, student work is collected for scrutiny by people other than the teacher. I know that when I was a building principal, our art teacher had, at the end of the year, essentially had her students show off a portfolio of their artwork. And they got to choose their, I think it was their 5, what they felt were their 5 best works throughout the year. And they essentially put on a display in our school gym. And then the entire community came in and they looked at these students' works of art. Okay, so that would be the sense of audience, what it would look like, increased level of concern, giving students voice, a responsibility that students have to produce a level of work that actually will be appreciated by people who are going to see it. You can also see that in a classroom setting by essentially saying to your students, you're addressing this letter to, you're going to send the letter you write about opening a business to a business leader, something like that. And so there's an actual sense of audience. You're going to send your work to somebody else to have it evaluated. So those are the things that we'll look for this week. And the other thing then that we'll do, just as another activity, hopefully we'll have a little bit more time for it this coming week. Let me show it to you as well as I share a screen. we're going to try Hot Topic one more time. And if it's not working in the framework of time that we have, then this may be the last week for it. But indulge me one more week and see what we can do with this. In your April 9th online module is the Hot Topic material for next week. And what that'll look like when you click on it is this. There's a link to a TED Talk by a wonderful lady named Rita Pearson. And when you click on that link, this video will show up. And it's about her, probably about 7 or 8 minutes of her speaking to her actual honest to goodness experience in classrooms about how important it is for students to have a sense of that the teacher actually likes them. Sometimes we throw that by the wayside, but I think it's really important to consider in a classroom how much work that you can get students to accomplish if you think, if the students feel that you as a teacher like them. And sometimes teachers say, well, it's not important if students like me, it's just important they respect me. Respectfully, I would say that's bull, but you can form your own opinions on that. And Rita Pearson will help you do that, okay? So those are the 2 things for this week. The first thing would be, again, the analyzing instruction for learning with others and sense of audience. That's the most important thing. That's the thing that we really need you to have in mind, especially as you start to design your own lesson plans. And the other thing would be this 7-minute video by Rita Pearson. And even if we don't get to talk about it next week, it's worth your time to watch that video, because if you have any appreciation for teaching at all, it will make you smile. And these are times I think that we need to watch things that make us smile. So please do watch that. But here's my promise to you: if we're not able to get to it next week, then we'll probably cut the hot topics after this. So this is my last experiment with this. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing here and leave this time open for any final questions that you might have.
For the assignment, you said that we're doing the sense of audience and the learning with others. What if I already did this on the first assignment that we did?
That's what you did. So go back to what you haven't done and do that then this time.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And again, if internet issues are plaguing you, or if there's just a lot of stuff that's going on. If by chance you're nannying a horde of children, for example, say, and they gang up on you and tie you up or something, there's just a lot of stuff that's happening. Just keep me in the loop is all I ask. Just keep me in the loop, and we will get through this together. I promise you we'll get through this. So any other final thoughts for the good of the cause?
Do you still want us to respond to the testing hot topic discussion?
Only for those that my promise for you was if you actually came to class, you didn't have to do that. So there's nothing to do for that. That's done and over with. And we'll try again next week with Rita Pearson. And again, if that doesn't work, then we'll just cut those out, because I want to make your lives simple. I don't want to complicate things. But I also want to make sure we have actually decent stuff to talk about too. So there's a fine line that we walk. But so my thoughts as you guys head out: stay safe, stay distant, but as much as possible, stay connected. And that's hard to do, but hopefully through the use of technology and just the people that you're staying with and all those things, I hope that you have access to human contact. That's really important during these times. So take care of yourselves, and we will see you next week. If you have any questions, you can email me, or I'm always good to answer questions during this time too. So I'll stay on until you guys are all off in case anybody has any questions. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Tyrone, build more mirrors, and we'll see you next week. Take care.